In this video, we're going to be detailing the exterior of this sedan Infiniti, talking about a few different products, one in particular that I've used for like the past 5 years that just continues to be one of the most useful products I think you can own. But we're also going to be talking about a few business aspects to this detail and why it's actually really important for you to take jobs where your customer has a particular issue with their car that they cannot fix. Now, you guys saw I posted an interior detail of this particular vehicle just a couple of days ago. So now it's time to move to the exterior. Just a little bit of some context here. This Infiniti exterior is in average condition. This is not a maintenance client. This is just a client who knows that I detail, called me up, said, listen, I need this done. And guess what? I also tried to do a retail headlight restoration kit on my headlights, and now they look really, really sucky. Can you fix it? Well, of course, the very simple answer is yes, of course I can fix it. It's not going to be any problem whatsoever. But I want to just break down a little bit and maybe some of the psychology of kind of what goes into this, just in my experience when a customer has done something to their vehicle, which this happens all the time, by the way, in the detailing world. If you're a professional detailer or you want to get into the detailing business, this is going to be something that you encounter on a pretty regular basis, at least from my experience. Customers have tried to do something, they feel like they've messed up something, and they say, listen, I don't want to take this to a body shop. I think this can be fixed with a detailer. So you guys are kind of the intermediary between what I really don't want to do and just being a quick fix. So can you take care of this? Well, when a customer comes with something as simple as, hey, I tried a headlight restoration kit and it didn't work, I know, of course, in my mind and in my experience, hey, this is going to be a super quick fix. They probably have some sanding marks they can't get out. They probably, didn't get all the clear coat off, whatever that might be. It's a super, super simple fix for the detailer. And I've talked about this just a little bit before, but the psychology is really interesting because the customer themselves get really upset about things like this. And not that this particular customer was like overly upset about it. I think he knew very simply that I could fix it, but he basically just wanted it to be fixed because the headlights just look so cloudy and so bad. When something like this happens, it's a great opportunity to give your customer a price that you want to give them. What I mean by that is a lot of guys who are beginning in the detailing business naturally devalue their pricing structures or devalue the prices they're giving to any particular customer at any particular time. They do that, of course, because they want to lower the barrier to get more customers in, because in the beginning stages, it's like customers are oxygen. That being said, I can tell you from my experience that customers like this, when they feel like they've messed something up, almost 100% of the time, they do not ever negotiate on pricing. If this is something you're struggling with, this might be something that you want to extend or say expand your business to, something as simple as headlight restoration. Because if you can do certain jobs like this, or say this actually happens a lot as well, like with black trim restoration, customers use products that don't actually work. They kind of streak their black trim, it stains it in a way they didn't want it to. Things that are actually very easy to fix for a detailer, but really confusing to fix for a customer. They don't have the right tools, product, experience, all that sort of stuff. When that happens, it puts you as the detailer in a perfect situation to charge the price that you need to charge to get it done. And just to be clear, I'm not talking about charging a price that's somehow like outrageous and you're just like taking the customer for all they've got. What I mean is, if you're experiencing a lot of people negotiating with you, trying to devalue your services, trying to bring your price down, this is a situation where pretty much across the board it doesn't happen. Customers tend not to negotiate with this because they want this to be fixed ASAP, okay? They want it done. They know you can do it. And by the way, I was doing, of course, an interior and exterior detail on this vehicle, so I charged him for that. But I worked in the charge for the headlights into that. And so the first main business point here that I'm making is, please consider expanding your business to certain simple add-ons like headlight restoration, black trim restoration, and things like that, because you will inevitably, like bees to honey, you will attract people who actually tried to do some of that DIY stuff in those areas, and they screw it up, and you will be able to come in like a superhero and fix those things, and you build I've built a fantastic reputation with certain people doing that sort of thing, something that they feel like is really, really complex, really complicated to fix, but is actually really, really simple. Now, some of you guys might feel like that's kind of deceptive, like, well, shouldn't you tell the customer it's actually an easy fix? I don't think so. I don't think it's always your obligation to say, hey, well, this is a super easy fix. I'm not going to charge you anything extra. Certainly there's a time and place for that, giving certain things away for free kind of as an add-on just to, seal the deal with the customer. But I really don't think that's something that needs to be frequent or you have any sort of responsibility or obligation to explain to the customer the process of how simple this is going to be. Because first of all, I don't think most customers are even interested in that. Generally, they just want to hand their car to you, and simplicity simplicity is the goal, in my opinion, at least in my experience. But secondly, once again, if you understand how to price things not based on only the time you put in, but based on the value you bring to the table, and you have a sort of value addition in your pricing structure, and therefore it allows you to leverage your time in a much more effective way, building an overall business that doesn't require a bunch of employees and stuff to exponentially expand your income. In that case, you're not obligated at all to devalue or to bring prices down because something doesn't take a lot of time. If you offer something, and this is a very simple way to look at it, if you offer something that a customer cannot do on their own, either because they don't have the products, they don't have the tools, or they don't have the know-how or the experience. Maybe they tried to do it and it didn't work. If you offer something that they don't know how to do, you should attach a price tag to that. And I don't think anyone is at liberty to tell you what that price tag should be. I think in many ways it should be what the customer is willing to pay for that in your area. And so, of course, the first major thing here is expanding your business into these add-ons not only will allow you to, of course, add on things and expand your income that way, but you will attract people who need actually things to be fixed that they tried to do on their own, which is a great way to attract customers in because they're already kind of in this mindset of, wow, I thought I could do this on my own, and turns out I couldn't. I had to bring it in. And when they see the great result that you bring, it kind of seals the deal with, man, this guy really knows what he's doing. So that's point number one here. The second point here is that I actually just went ahead and worked that into the front end pricing with this particular customer. And again, I actually don't normally take jobs like this these days. I generally just detail for kind of an exclusive group of people who I've detailed for a long time, who I continue to, maintenance their vehicles for. I don't generally take on new customers, but this is actually kind of an acquaintance, friend of mine who needed this done. Don't get to see him very often, but nonetheless, he needed it done and was willing to, of course, pay the price that needed to be paid to get it done. But that being said, I worked in this sort of headlight restoration into the price. And I knew going into it that it was not going to require the same amount of time, product, or energy as a regular headlight restoration would for obvious reasons because, of course, and this probably is something that you're going to just learn with experience, but when somebody calls and says something like, hey, I tried a headlight restoration kit and it didn't work. I really need help. This needs to be fixed. You can kind of assume that they kind of sanded it down, got most of the clear coat off, but they just couldn't get the sanding marks out. That, in my experience of actually having a lot of calls like this, that is actually what ends up happening is people sand their headlights and nothing really comes out of it. It's just real cloudy, kind of a mess. And so because I knew that just from experience going into it, I knew that this was going to be a really quick process and it wasn't going to take a lot of time. So just for your reference, I actually started with 2,000 grit sanding paper and moved up to 3,000 grit. I edited it and kind of jump cut it here in the video, so you're not going to be able to see the entire thing. But I went ahead and did 2,000, 3,000, and then I just polished it out with a polish from a company called Showcar. It's kind of like a body shop polish. A lot of times I like heavy abrasive compounds and body shop polishes and compounds when I'm doing headlights because it just makes it a lot faster. And then I use a blue synthetic wool pad. I believe it's like a 7-inch pad, maybe 8-inch pad, and it's just with my DeWalt rotary. I pretty much only use rotary, by the way, on headlights just because it makes the whole process extremely straightforward, really simple, and really quick. At this point in my life, when it comes to headlights, I don't pick up DAs. That being said, working in something like this to the price on the front end is actually an extremely important point because here's how the way I kind of interpret this psychology with the customer. When a customer calls you, and they've had a screw up with their vehicle. And let's just take it out of the context of this video. And let's just say they were doing some black trim restoration and they got it all swirly and it's like part of it's dark, part of it's not dark. The customer is calling you in an effort with an expectation that you are going to be able to simplify this process and you will be able to fix the problem without bringing more complication to the mix. I am extremely, extremely careful in the way I communicate with customers because I know my customer in this situation is already a bit frustrated because of what happened with his headlights and he's not interested in the nature of headlights or the nature of how things are done. In other words, he doesn't want to know how the watch is made. He just wants to know what time it is. So I just need to look at my wrist and tell him what time it is. I don't need to tell him the inner workings of the watch. I'm just going to put the price in on the front end so that I'm not further bringing complication to the job saying, well, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars for the detail. Then I'm going to have to work in about X amount of dollars for the headlight. And I'm going to have to give you a range of this and this because I don't really know what the headlights, the condition are in or what they're going to look like. I just want to simplify it and put a price tag on it. And of course, my experience helps with that. And if you're beginning here, that might be a little bit of a strain because you don't have as much experience to determine how long things are going to take you or not take you. But my point is, in conversing or conversating with the customer on the front end in a situation like this, I am hypersensitive to bring simplicity to the mix, not only in the jobs I'm performing, but also say in something as simple as my pricing structure. I want to make this as simple and seamless for the customer as I possibly can. The third thing on top of that really makes this a win-win for everybody is the fact that because the customer wants this done and they're already a little concerned about it because they know they screwed up, they're already willing to pay to make something like this quick, easy, painless, and to get it done right because they already tried to do it cheaply and it wasn't done right. So they're already kind of in a position to be like, hey, I just want to get this done. Let's make this happen. So when you give them that kind of one price over the phone and make it very simple rather than overcomplicating it and explaining how the pricing breaks down, they're very quick to just say, yes, let's go ahead, get it done. When's the soonest time that you can do it? And that's how you want to structure business right there, especially in the detailing world. The truth is, it's complicated enough detailing a car. The more you can simplify your interactions with customers, the more you're just going to thank yourself in the future. One thing that I wanted to point out that I think is kind of pertinent to this video, for those of you who are kind of in the beginning stages of a detailing business, or maybe not even beginning stages, you've just hyper-focused on detailing alone and not really adding in services like, say, wet sanding or headlight restoration. Headlight restoration is one of those things that I think customers, or say your average person who doesn't know a lot about detailing, tends to dramatically overcomplicate, and it's actually a super simple process. And the reason why I like adding in a service like this so much is because it actually it's kind of what I would call like the versatile service where you are not only making money doing it and doing, adding a lot of value at the same time with the customer, but you're also learning a really great skill within the detailing industry that more or less expands to other areas. And so like if you've never wet sanded paint, for example, wet sanding headlights is a great way to just kind of get familiar with something like wet sanding so that eventually you start, say, repairing scratches and all that sort of stuff. I've wet sanded for a lot of years now and doing scratch removal for certain people and in certain situations, certain customers. And so that ends up becoming a very high paying skill, all in all. And restoring headlights is one of those ways that you can do it. I would say you could do it safely. When you're sanding plastic or sanding the plastic headlight, even if you screw up and do something wrong, it's kind of one of those areas that can be easily fixed by probably the tools that you're using to restore them in the first place. So let's say you use too low of a grit sandpaper. You bring 200 grit sandpaper and you make these huge sanding marks. While yes, it might take a little bit more time to fix, it can be fixed nonetheless, but it gives you a really great feel for what something like wet sanding is actually like and kind of how this can extend to other areas. And it's just doing it safely. It's like starting a business with $100 instead of $10,000. If you make a mistake and the business fails, you're out $100. You're not out $10,000. You'd rather make a mistake with less zeros attached to it. And that's kind of the way I look at, headlight restoration. It can teach you a lot, but it's also kind of a safety net in some sense. One of the other things that was really awesome about this job and kind of is awesome about most of the jobs that I take nowadays, and some of you may or may not be able to relate to this depending on how mobile you are, how stationary you are, but because I'm just kind of slowly but surely building out my garage here, I get to more or less kind of more conveniently detail in some sense. And so I want to just kind of give you guys a little inside look of what this is like, just because this might be a way you guys want to actually structure things moving forward in your own business. When you have a garage like this, it becomes a little bit easier to communicate with the customer as far as getting cars in and out, meaning that my customer dropped his car off here at like 8 in the morning. And I didn't actually arrive until like 8:15, 8:20. And so this entire job here with this Infinity was done without ever actually in person interacting with my customer. Now, once again, I know this guy in person, and he's not one of my regular clients. But however, I never actually interacted with him. And even down to the payment method, many times I do payment through Venmo if that's the most convenient way for the customer. A lot of people ask how I do payment. My simple answer to that is you should do payment the way that is the easiest for the customer. That's the way I like to do it. I always send invoices through QuickBooks and things for my bookkeeper to take records of everything. But Having said all that, when you have a garage like this, it ends up being super, super convenient because you can kind of base things around your own schedule. So even when I was done here, I simply texted him, said, listen, you're all good to go. Your car's outside. Everything's curing to the paint. It's good that you can't get here for another hour because everything's going to be even more ready to go by the time you get here. Not going to be any sling. All the paint's going to be, it almost like works out even better. He couldn't get there till 5. So I show up after and leave before, and it just kind of makes things very seamless. I can video at my own leisure, and I can just kind of do a lot of things at my own leisure. And the only reason why I'm saying that is not because this is the way you're going to be able to start out in the detailing world, but over time, when you build up a hefty or healthy list of things like maintenance clients, which is what I talk about all the time, this is kind of the way you can structure your business because you have a personal relationship with these people. And so while, yes, this is my garage, I actually did this a lot with my wealthier clients who I detailed for on a regular basis when I was more mobile than I am today. I still am mobile, still do a lot of things mobile, but just less so. They would have large garages, and I had probably the garage code to like 50 to 75 people's garage because they would just say, listen, come in and out at your own leisure. You can go in the mudroom and grab a bottle of water, all that sort of stuff. Some of them would even make food for me, believe it or not. So my only point in saying that is when you build up kind of this healthy list of maintenance clients or even something like your own garage, you can kind of create convenience and create these kind of, I don't know, what I would say more leisures, work them into your business that just make detailing just that much more fun and even more enjoyable. And, maybe this isn't y'all's top priority, but I'm always thinking of different ways that I can make detailing just even more fun because the more you can kind of create, exciting things around it, the more, you're not going to get burnout and you can continue kind of growing your business at just like a fundamental motivational level. Now, I want to break down just 2 more things real quickly as we're watching the exterior of the detail here. Number 1, I want to break down the numbers really quickly. I charged $215 total for this car, and my customer actually knew the vehicle was going to be in a video. I most of the time I ask that nowadays and just say, hey, if I ever take on a new customer, my deal is always, listen, I'll take you on as a customer if you let me video the whole thing because I want it for content. I know a lot of guys appreciate it, and so if they say yes, I'm like, you know what, bring it on. So apart from the videoing time that it takes, because videoing does add a significant amount of time to my details. However, apart from the videoing, this was about a 4 to 4.5 hour job. And so let's see, 215 divided by, 4 to 4. I mean, if it's just, let's just say 4 hours to make it round numbers, you're looking at a little over $50 an hour, like $53 an hour, $54 an hour. And so this is, again, that $50 an hour or more price point that I talk about being at. And just by the way, I kind of want to tell you guys how the conversation went with my customer because this was actually just over text. He told me the situation, told me what was going on, and said, listen, when can you get me in? And I said, I can get you in here. It's going to be, I can do an exact price point for you over the phone here. That's going to be $215. By the way, I don't suggest you guys doing exact price points. It's not something I tell people to do, but I do it on occasion for various reasons. And I said, it's going to be $215. My customer didn't bat an eye or blink an eye. He said, absolutely no problem. What time do you want it there? And so this just goes to show, I know that there is some variability as far as like where you live and different things affecting this, depending on where you're at, probably geographically. But I just want you guys to be encouraged. Like, you should tell people what you charge based on what you want to make. I think people underestimate in the detailing world what people are willing to pay for a really skilled and good detailer when they know they're going to get great results. And so while I talk about, making $50 an hour, I know not everybody can start there. And this is something that I'm going to break down in great detail in my course, of course. But this is kind of the price point that I sit at a minimum. Generally will not detail for less than that, at least being the case. But again, $53.75 an hour is a very good payday, in my opinion, for a job like this, especially when it's not taking all day or anything like that. Now, on top of that, the other thing that I really wanted to break down and just talk about maybe more at a surface level is just building brand and building reputation. Just like other companies build brands and charge more money or charge a premium based on the brand they've built, not necessarily because it's kind of this interesting, if you looked at it like 2 graphs, if you can picture it in a sense of like 2 graphs next to each other, you have, one graph showing like the generic brand and the price that they've been able to charge over time. They've increased it a little bit over time, but nonetheless, it's still pretty steady. Then you look at the graph with the brand, and they basically started at the same price point as the generic brand, but over time it's like a hockey stick. They've increased it dramatically. The problem is, if it was a graph comparing price increase versus quality increase, you would see that while yes, the brand might have better quality and probably does, it's probably true that the brand does not have such higher quality where it's orders of magnitude higher, like their pricing structure is orders of magnitude higher than the generic brand. So hopefully that makes sense. I kind of think a lot of time, I think a little mathematically like that. But once again, you see this exponential increase in price, but not necessarily a matched exponential increase in quality. And while I'm not saying anything about like the morality of that, I don't think that's moral, immoral, or immoral. I think most brands do have, genuinely better quality than those generic brands. However, it doesn't mean that their price structure matches that in a linear fashion. And that's kind of what I like to build in the auto detailing world. What I like to say a lot of times is, yes, other detailers could do what I'm doing here with your vehicle, but the reason people are calling me, and for example, the reason people don't make a fuss about price is because of the brand that I've built in my area. And so one of the things that I would really suggest you guys do is really focus on your social media content, because it is going to skyrocket you out there in a way that other detailers really are not taking the time to do, because it is a significant time suck. And while yes, you have to work at it and you don't necessarily see the return in an instantaneous way, you will see that hockey stick or that exponential return at some level eventually, where you no longer have to make a fuss about pricing. Now, with all of that business umbrella stuff being talked about, the one product I really want to talk about here that I'm using right now that's my old school go-to, this is Meguiar's Synthetic Express Spray Wax, and I compared it a little bit to the Technician's Choice Detail Spray a while back, and while I love both of the products, I can say this: the biggest distinction that I find between these two products is that the Meguiar's Synthetic Express Spray Wax works better in direct sunlight than the Technician's Choice Detail Spray works. To give you guys a little bit of idea of just the surface level products that I'm using in this video, you'll see a little pan around at the end of me panning through the products that I'm using, but I'm using Stoner More Shine Tire Shine on these tires, because if you've ever shined tires, or a lot of tires, you'll find that some of them have a bit of a more gritty is probably not the right word, but like a more gritty or like a maybe more matte sidewall, and it doesn't take a gel tire coating quite as well, doesn't cure quite as shiny. So something like something like Chemical Glass VRP doesn't work as well. That's when I like to pull out the aerosol can. I also always do the Stoner aerosol can or the More Shine Tire Shine coating on the tires before I wax it, because some of that overspray does end up freckling on the paint, but the wax pulls it off really simply, and that's just a way I don't have to go back over my work a bunch of times. But I've got my Meguiar's Synthetic Express Spray Wax going on the glass, paint, plastic, every part you can see. It's also in that traditional bottle. I've got that labeled bottle now, which, by the way, there is some level of just communication that when you're working with a customer and they see that you've got all of your products in specific bottles, I think that does communicate some professionalism at some level. But I don't think it should be overthought. My only point here is that these kind of products, I've been showing a little bit of my kind of go-to products here. I posted a video 2 days ago that showed the products that I've been really reaching for a lot nowadays, kind of an updated version, so you guys know what I'm reaching for. But I always keep the Meguiar's Synthetic Express Wax, Spray Wax in my arsenal. I've never found a good reason to let it go. I don't think I'll ever find a good reason to let it go. But you guys are going to see as I finish up here, of course, yes, I'm applying this to all of the glass and the paint. I am going to be applying not only the Stoner Tire Shine to the sidewall, I'm going to be applying the Renegade Rubber and Vinyl Protectant to the wheel well. Yes, I use a fair amount of product. I did dilute it a little bit with water. I'm playing around with this product because it is water soluble. It's an amazing wheel well shine or wheel well protectant. The two back wheel wells on this Infiniti are cloth, they're fabric coated, and so it only is going to work with that black plastic wheel well. But you guys are going to see me apply that Renegade rubber vinyl plastic protection to that wheel well. And then my secret weapon, I'm pulling it out again at the end of this video. I haven't talked about it a lot on the YouTube channel because yes, I give you guys a lot of my secrets, but I don't always give it all away for free. However, I am going to be pulling out that Ultra Shine detail spray from Showcar. Of course, I'll be hooking it up in the YouTube description box below, along with the rest of the products. But that Ultra Shine detail spray, it can be used on basically every area of the car, interior, exterior. I wouldn't use it on glass, but you're talking plastics, rubbers, vinyls, even some leathers. You're talking chrome pieces, wheel wells, all sorts of areas, even painted surfaces. And I am going to be using that in the front area for the black trim underneath the chrome grille. That is an area that gets extremely beat up by the road, and it's just an area that it's always going to look bad, always going to look non-uniform if you don't take care of it. And while most customers probably aren't getting down on their hands and knees and looking at that area, it's just an area that I want to make sure that I attack well. So you can see me using that Ultra Shine detail spray right there. And then here is the Renegade rubber vinyl plastic protection. Yes, again, I'm using a fair amount. Once again, I diluted it with water a little bit. It's still working fantastically, still gives that great sheen, shine appearance from even it being diluted. You guys will have some dripping and some product that drips underneath there. You do want to let it cure for probably about 30 minutes to an hour if you have the ability to do that. I like it best sprayed onto the paint. I don't like applying it with an applicator. I don't think I get as good of a shine, but when it can drip off and sit there for about an hour, it has plenty of time to dry, plenty of time to cure, and it comes out looking fantastic. So it's a little excessive, I get it, but you can dilute it with water and it looks fantastic. Here are all of the products that I used in the interior and exterior, so you will see a little bit of a mix of that, but that will about wrap it up. All right, guys, that's it. As always, if you want to check out any of the tools or products that I used in this video, they'll all be linked up in the YouTube description box below. If you're new to the Wilson Auto Detailing channel and you haven't yet subscribed, but you love everything auto detailing, hit the subscribe button and tap the bell icon so that you get notified when I publish future videos. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And as always, from Luke here at Wilson Auto Detailing, keep working hard, and I'll see you in the next video.